Hi guys, it's Jane, and today we're going to talk about the whole book of Dear Mr. Henshaw by Beverly Cleary. This is a Newbery Medal-winning book, and Beverly Cleary has written lots of other books. She's a great author, so I hope that you enjoy Dear Mr. Henshaw, okay? And I hope, yeah, okay. So, yeah, let's just start. Okay. So, at first, when you didn't really know who Mr. Henshaw was, who did you think that Mr. Henshaw was? Just from the first letter, like, what were your guesses about who Mr. Henshaw was? And, it's pretty easy. Maybe you can find out. I'm gonna read out the letters. Dear Mr. Henshaw, my teacher read your book about the dog to our class. It was funny. We looked at your friend Laybot's boy, So, your book. So, who writes books here? Authors. So you already have sort of the hint that maybe Mr. Henshaw is an author, right? And I wanted to ask you, do you think that Lay here is reading like ways to amuse a dog too many times that maybe he should switch to some other books, or maybe go on to some other Mr. Henshaw books? Or do you think that you should always reread books that you love? Okay, now I wanted to ask you, what are 7 ways that you can think of to amuse a dog? I think that one way I could amuse a dog, I'm not a dog expert, but maybe one way would be to drive around, or to take walks with it on the beach, or just walks, Okay, now, do you think, okay, now, finally, I wanted to ask you, do you think that you would like to eat a moose here? And also, would you like moose burgers, moose stew, or moose meatloaf? Do you think they sound pretty good, or would you want something else? Okay? And then, now, if you have a Mr. Henshaw, and you have been given all these questions, how would you have felt about them? Do you have a feeling that maybe Mr. Henshaw receives lots of these kinds of questions? And if you are an author and you receive these questions over and over and over and over and over, how would you sort of feel about them? Okay. So now, I also wanted to really ask you, what do you think about Mr. Henshaw's note? About Mr. Henshaw's letter back, right? And do you think that it was an okay letter, or do you think that it wasn't as good as the other authors? And also, do you think that Mr. Henshaw was a little unfair when he, wrote questions to Laybots? Or do you think that it is fair because Lay, he wrote to Mr. Henshaw, so it's like a fair trade? What do you think about that? Okay. Now, do you think that if you had been Lay's mom, would you have been like, hey, you gotta answer those questions, or would you be like, who cares? It's not like Mr. Henshaw is around here. Don't need to answer those questions, okay? How would you be like? Okay, but anyway, if you had been Lay, then would you have signed it your disgusted reader, or something else? I would have done would have done maybe not this. Yeah, discuss the reader. I think it fits it well. Okay, and if you had been late, do you think that it would have been fun to fill out those questions, or do you think that you would have not liked it at all? And here, if you think about it, in your opinion, what do you think is the first sort of clue that maybe, Lay's dad isn't around? And really, you can find it in November 16th, Dear Mr. Henshaw, page 12 on my copy. You can actually find that. And it's a little minor clue, and you're like, oh, really? I didn't even notice that, But it actually is there, and it's this. It says this, P.S. If my dad was here, he would tell you to go climb a tree. So it says if my dad was here, right? But I'm pretty sure that the dad wasn't here. So that's sort of like the first clue here. Was that the first clue for you, or was it like a later clue for you? And it's okay if it was a different clue. Okay, and now, here is who are you? That's the first question, right? So let's pretend that we are answering the questions, okay? So, now of course we aren't laybots, right? But still, if you had been writing to Mr. Henshaw, then about who are you, then how would you have written, and what would you have written there? Well, of course, you can pause the video. I can't because I'm getting recorded here for the video. But I think that one thing would be like, well, I am Jaden Yoon, Jaden, and I also dream of becoming an author. I play the violin. Well, I of course will get into more specifics, but that's basically like what I'm going to talk about me, okay? Okay. And do you think that Laybot, even if he isn't gifted or talented, do you think that he's going to be a good guy in the story, or do you think that at times he might do some things bad? What do you think about what Lay is going to do for the rest of the story? A good character or a bad character? Because even the main character might be bad, right? We don't know. And so, if how to describe how you look like. Do you think that you're too fat, or that maybe you're too tall, or maybe you're too short? How would you describe yourself? Okay, and you can actually write these down. Of course I can, but you can, right? So you got that advantage. Okay, now we see the second clue that dad is away, right? And it's this. 3, what is your family like? Since Dad and Bandage went away, my family is just Mom and me, And then we keep on going on, right? What do you think about divorce? Do you think it's like a terrible thing, or do you think that at times it is needed, and that it's a fair, okay thing that if somebody wants divorce, then it should be agreed to, and people should. And if they want divorce, then it's divorce, and it's okay. Or do you think that divorce should never happen? And why or why not here? Why do you think that divorce should happen or not? Okay, so now, do you think that do you always make your letters Dear Mr. Henshaw, or Dear something, or do you just put the name? Because now, Lay's quit putting the name here, right? And what about, okay, so now I wanted to ask you, do you think that Lay's mother will someday become a LVN, or do you think that she won't have enough time for that? Okay, now, chapter 24 is, about where do you live, right? So we sort of learn about this. Have you ever been to California? Or if you have, or maybe you live there, then where do you live, or where have you gone? Well, I live in California, specifically San Diego in Southern California. I visited Los Angeles, and many other places like Joshua Tree, Yosemite, Death Valley, Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks. And I'm planning to go to Yosemite and Death Valley again this year. Maybe possibly Joshua Tree. And yeah, so I love California. I live in Southern California, pretty hot and dry. I don't really like it because I like rain and snow, but I came from a north region, northern, but now I'm south. Okay, and if you've never been there, then it's okay. There's a lot, you can go to Arizona, and go to the Grand Canyon. It's pretty cool. I've never been there, but I'm planning on it going this year. Okay, and what do you think about Lay's house? What are 5 traits? 5 things? Okay, 5 traits. Do you think the traits are okay for a house? Let's treat the house like a character. What are 5 traits that it has? Okay, and it doesn't have to be nice and kind, because of course a house doesn't have that. Maybe rickety. So maybe not 5 traits, rickety, old. Or maybe you could do mean, the house may be mean, not really mean, but bad enough so that you can think of it as mean, okay? You could, put it like that. Or you could put cozy. And now also, do you think that the house do you think that you would like to be right next to a gas station if your house? And why or why not? What are the advantages or the disadvantages? Well, an advantage, you can always just go to the store right next door and buy a pack of bubble gum or some chips. I would get a pack of Cheetos every day. Maybe, a soda. Oh yes, I am pretty thirsty here, but yeah, soda would be awesome. Or another disadvantage might be, with so many cars going in and out, and the air might not be so good, and also it will be noisy, and there might be some bad people there, strangers. So that's some other bad things. Okay, and now, do you think that TV is better or writing and reading is better? In your opinion, and what are the advantages of TV and what are the advantages of writing? Okay, and if you want, you can do the disadvantages of TV, the disadvantages of writing and reading, or you could do the advantages of TV and disadvantages of writing and reading, or you could do the disadvantages of TV and the advantages of reading and writing, or any way you want it, okay? If you just want to do the advantages and disadvantages of TV or reading and writing, I'm perfectly okay. I just, you can do any pair. Okay, and do you think that TVs actually make your brain rot, or do you think it just makes your brain a little mushy? Or do you think that if you go to school, then school will prevent you from your brain getting mushy? What do you think? Okay, question 5 is, do you have any pets? Well, first of all, I wanted to ask you, do you have any pets? I have a fish. I had many fish a long time ago, but now I have just one fish. But what a good guy he is. I just gave him some food right before this class. He gobbled it right up. He's blue. He's a betta fish or a Siamese fighting fish. Either way, yeah, I know. In the pet stores, they keep the fish in the betta fish in really little bottles. That's really unfair. So I moved him to a good 2 or 3 gallon tank. So he's happy. That's at least 10 times the small cups, maybe 20 times. I'm not very sure. Okay, so. If you have a dog, then does your dog like to ride around? And what if you have a pet then? What is one thing that the pet loves to do? My fish, not very sure. I mean, seriously, I don't know. He just sits there and doesn't really do anything. I'm pretty sure I need to give him a companion, but I didn't have the chance yet. And also, what is one thing that you think is straight and boring? Because Lay said that Interstate 5 is straight and boring. What's one thing that, just not straight, but like just boring? What's one thing that you find so boring? Okay. And also, do you like school? That's the 6th question. I like school okay, but at times I think it's a little boring. But don't tell my teachers. Okay? Anyway, I have a question. If you had a choice to quit school or to be in school, then what would you do? And also, in your opinion, do you think that you're like the popular kid, or you're like a not a very popular kid? Or in your school, are there like no popular kids or no like least popular kids, and it's just everybody's the same? Or do you think you're just average here? And in your opinion, do you think that you have a lot of friends or not a lot of friends? And so, if you had to give some tips on having friends, then what do you think? Then what are some tips that you would give on on getting some friends? Number 1, maybe just go up to a friend and try to befriend them. Just be like, hey, and then try to befriend them. It might work, right? So, what bothers you? Like, what do you think? Sorry, my words are getting mixed up. What things bother you? One thing that bothers me is like when I go to sleep and it's like dark, I always have like this sensation that like right across the hall in the closet that something is like rumbling and stirring, and it just came out for the fun of night. And it's like creeping along the hall, like maybe like a vampire or something and here's the thing, I always think of the vampire with a lightsaber. I know, Star Wars plus Dracula and stuff is strange, but I always think of it like that. I don't really have any choice. But those dreams have been fading away, so that's one thing that bothers me. What about you? Those things. Okay. 10. What do you wish? And so now we learned that someone is stealing Lay's lunch. So who do you think is stealing Lay's lunch? And also, all in all, what do you think that Lay wishes more about? His dad coming someday to drive him to school, or somebody would stop stealing from his lunch bag? What do you think is more possible? Number 1, dad, or number 2, stop stealing from the lunch bag? How would you feel if your dad drove a truck? How would you feel if your dad had done the same thing to you? Would you have liked it, or would you be embarrassed because you were in the center of attention? And I have a question. Do you like being in the center of attention, or do you like to be in sort of not like the exact center of the attention? Just sort of like, even if you are a little in the center of attention, or like not like fully. So now I wanted to ask you, why do you think that Lay began to soften up to, Mr. Henshaw, just softened up in the next letter? What do you think happened? Do you think it's just, it just happened? Why, though? Okay. And now, I wanted to ask you about The Great Lunch Bag Mystery. Do you think that that's a very good book? That's a very good idea? Or do you think that maybe that book wouldn't be the best idea, but maybe it will be okay, but not the best? What do you think? I wish that I had thought of that. That would be a really fun thing to write about, even though I've already written 93 pages in a really awesome story I'm making. It's called Adventures from a Keychain. And so I hope that by the time you watch this video, it might be published, okay? There's a possibility. Okay, yeah, I'm almost done, and then after I review it, check some things over, grammar, etc., maybe add some things here and there, then I can actually publish it. Yeah. So, okay, and now, do you think that, like, how would you feel if you had been late? And you have to use a simile here, okay? So basically, how this works is, let's say, like a simile. So you could be like I, which is late, and you could be like I felt like I was falling out of the sky. You know, that'd be like you were frustrated, and angry, and scared. Maybe it'll be like I felt like as if my test paper grade has suddenly turned into an F minus. Something like that, maybe, you know, it could be anything. Or you could use a metaphor, but for right, yeah, a metaphor or a simile, I'll just let you choose here. So now I wanted to also ask you about, do you think that Wyoming is a better place to live than Alaska, or Alaska is a better place to live? Well, Wyoming versus Alaska, what do you think is a better place? Personally, I think that Alaska is a better place. But that's only because I love nature. Even though Wyoming has plenty of nature, has Yellowstone National Park, Grand Teton National Parks, lots of state parks, natural reserves, and just lots of nature. I know, there are, but still, you know, Alaska has way more nature, it's amazing. But I think that I would also like to visit Wyoming, okay? And, okay, now, so another thing I wanted to ask you is, do you think that Mr. Fridley, I'm pretty sure I'm saying it right, do you think that Mr. Fridley, you know, you know, do you think that finally Lay has some purpose in his life, even if it's a small purpose? And do you think that this small purpose, you know, how do you think that just the fact that he's hanging the flag now, how do you think that sort of, let's say, helps him, okay? How do you think it sort of helps him? And do you think that, how do you think, you know, like writing a diary, do you think it's a hard thing to do, or not a hard thing to do, it's as easy as lemon pie? Well, I didn't say that right? It was like, easy? I don't know, how would I see it? Easy lemon squeezy? Something like that, I don't know. Like a piece of cake, okay, I'll just say that. Okay, but anyway, and so what do you think about the cover, okay? What do you think about the title of the diary, which is Diary of Lay Marcus Spots, Private, Keep Out, this means you. And anyway, so Lay didn't really get to, you know, really get the hang of this diary writing. Do you think that Lay is stupid because he doesn't know this, or do you sympathize and that you wouldn't know either? Okay, now, so do you think that the tip that Mr. Henshaw gave is actually going to work or not? Okay, now we're going to go actually stop with the letters, but to the private diary of Lay Bots. And you know about Dear Mr. Pretend Henshaw, do you think that this is going to work, you know, do you think that this is like a stupid idea or actually a pretty good idea here? And do you think, okay, so now in here, so how do you think that, you know, how do you think that, Lay is going to stop the food burglar? And do you think that he's just going to trick the burglar by maybe just, you know, changing the name? But do you think that's actually going to work or not? And how would you feel if your dad has still not had, if the package from your dad, the Christmas present has still not come? And I wanted to use a simile or a metaphor, you know how it works. So, and okay. Now, what do you think memories. Do you think that memories are bad because they make you feel sad? Well, I just want to focus on sad memories. Do you think that sad memories are bad because they just make you feel sad? Or do you think that, would you rather lose a sad memory or keep a sad memory? Like, even if it's a sad one, would you like to keep it? Yeah, I would like to keep it. What do you think was the best, song about the shoe? And do you think that Lay's dad actually saw shoes along the highway? Here's the thing. I've gone on 7-hour or 8-hour car trips. I have never in my life seen a shoe on the road. Well, maybe at times I did sleep, but really I did not see a shoe on the road. And like at one time, like for 7 hours straight, maybe 8 hours straight, like on a car trip, I didn't sleep a wink. And I still didn't see anything. Even though that might partly be because there were so many cars, but still, like even when there weren't any cars. And okay, so now I'm also going to ask you, suddenly somebody had just came, right? And there was this, and then we learned that Lay's father had made it so that one of the truckers delivered the package, right? What did you think about this? Do you think that it's a little unfair to Lay because his dad actually didn't deliver it personally? Or do you think that it's still a really good thing that he did it? And anyway, how do you think that, Lay felt when he, wore the coat? And of course, simile metaphor. And do you think that the coat was a good present, or would you have like a Lego set, or maybe like video games, or like books? Do you think that a coat was a good present here? Okay. And now, like the fact that Lay just fooled the thief. How did you feel about everything? And I want you to describe your feeling this time with a simile or metaphor, okay? And how would you feel if your dad phoned you? Would you feel happy, or would you feel a little awkward? Or would you just feel a little mad at your dad because he went away? And also, I also want to ask you, why do you think, like before we came to the fact that about why Lay's mother had divorced his dad, why do you think that? Why did you think that Lay's mother divorced Lay's dad here? And what do you think of Mr. Friedley? Do you think that Mr. Friedley would be a good, like maybe a good grandfather? And also, do you think that Mr. Friedley, do you think that you would have liked him in your school, or would you not like him, or would you be like, who cares, and you wouldn't even notice him? And also, do you think that did you actually think that Lay was going to get a burglar alarm or not? And also, I also wanted to ask you about, do you think that was funny about how Lay put so much Scotch tape that he had a hard time trying to get it off? Or do you think that it wasn't funny at all? And you have to look at this through both perspectives. The other kid's perspective, and then also there is Lay's perspective, right? And okay, now, what do you think about the conversation that Lay recorded? Do you think that it's a really good conversation and like a really interesting one, or do you think that it's pretty boring? And do you think that it would be the same do you think that Lay's mom should marry somebody else, or do you think that she shouldn't do it this quickly? Why or why not? And also, What do you think would be different with a new dad? And do you think that Lay will like this new dad if his mom ever marries, or do you think that he won't like it at all? Now, so his mom also said that there gotta be a better way than just getting, married there gotta be like an easier way than getting married just for a burglar alarm, right? Okay, and now, okay, let's keep on going. So now we're actually gonna do like a real letter, right? And it's, what do you think about beggar bears? Do you think that you'd have even though you haven't read it, do you think that you'd have liked to read Beggar Bears or not? Okay, now I wanted to ask you, do you think that a book has to be funny to be good? And what are some adventures that books aren't funny, but are actually really good books? And do you know any books that are funny and are really good? I guess there is a book. There's a lot of comedy in it, like not real comedy, but like here and there, like there's some comedy. So I guess that's a funny book. But excuse me. But mostly, just without the comedy though, it would be a great book. But with the comedy, it adds a lot of fun. Okay, and do you think that is natural and right for a bear to beg for food in front of tourists or not? And if you had seen that, then how would you have felt if you had gone to Yellowstone and bears were begging for food in front of tourists? Okay. Okay, I also wanted to ask you, do you think that Beggar Bears is going to win a lot of awards? Well, I hope so for Mr. Henshaw. I just from the, short story, I think that it would be a good enough book. Okay. Now, I wanted to ask you, what do you think is a better postcard? The postcard from Mr. Henshaw or Lay's dad here? And also, I wanted to ask you, do you actually think that Lay is going to be Lay's writing is going to be in first place or not here? Okay, now we're going back to the Diary of Lay Bots, okay? Okay, and let's keep on going. And so now here, do you think that it's hard thinking up of a story, or do you think that it's easy peasy and you just have, now I remember, it's easy peasy lemon squeezy. Okay, now I remember. But, okay, that's a long thing to say, and I already said it once. So do you think that it's easy about, just thinking of a story idea? Do you think it's hard? And have you ever tried that? Try it right now. My story idea, Avengers from a Keychain, it didn't come out like really suddenly, but I began to sort of think about it and form the plot in my mind, and soon enough I had gotten it. So yeah, now I got 93 pages, and I think that I could get to 130 pages because I still, I'm right now in my middle, And also, how would you feel about broken promises? How do you feel about a broken promise? How does it feel in your heart here? What does your heart feel like? Does it feel like it's broken, or do you think that your heart is mad, or there's a storm in your heart? How does it feel? And okay, do you think that it is Lay's fault that they all got divorced, or do you think that it isn't Lay's fault and it would have happened anyway? And do you think that actually Lay is doing a good thing to his family, and what do you think that is? Okay, I think that maybe it's just keeping his mother cheered up, If I had been Lay's mother, I would have at least like the son or a daughter, and also his dad. His dad would have a son, so he'll be proud, right? Okay. And how do you like when your mom or dad like has friends over, or you guys, or your mom or dad like meets friends? Do you like it and you feel fun, or are you like, oh, this is so boring? Well, how do you feel like? Well, when my mom met other moms, well, of course they had kids and they were about my age, so we played a lot, so it wasn't that boring. And now, do you think when Lay said, I hate my father, would you be like, oh yeah, I get it? Or would you be like, no, you shouldn't hate your father? Or was it like your feelings? Okay, so let's keep on reading. How are you like when you read, I hate my father here? Okay, now, now, another thing I really wanted to ask you was, do you think that, his dad answered the phone call that Lay's, Lay just, typed in, right? And if you had been Lay, would you have been surprised, or would you be excited, or would you be like, I hate my father? How would you be like? And also, they were all talking, right? And then finally, we learned the bandit was missing. Have you ever had like a dog died or missing? Well, I know a dog who's died. Really sad. I love that dog. And also, I also wanted to ask you, about Bandit, right? About Bandit disappearing. Do you think that it was his dad's fault, or do you think that, it was Bandit's own fault, or do you think that it was nobody's fault? And now, finally, Lay heard this, okay? And it's this. Hey, Bill, Mom wants to know when we're going out to pizza. A boy's voice said this, right? If you had been Lay, how would you have felt? Metaphor and simile. And how would your heart have felt at that moment? Okay. Do you think that, stopping the letter thing, dear Mr. Henshaw, do you think that's improvement, or do you think that it just makes it a little sad because you like the Mr. Henshaw thing? But anyway, so if you had been Lay and you heard that, how would you have reacted to it? Would you have done what Lay did, flopped on your bed and, cried and swore and pounded the pillow? Or would you just, take it calmly and just try to walk it out? Or would you scream with rage and throw the stuff? Or would you just faint? Or would you just cry? What would you do here? And what are some tips that you give Lay to, calm down? How do you calm down here? And if you have been Lay's mom and you saw Lay, and crying and you heard about Dad and all that, how would you feel? And who would you be angry? Would you be angry at your husband because you're Lay's mother, or would you just feel neutral feelings? Yeah, and I want you to also use a simile for maybe what Lay's mother was feeling, and you have to really think about it, right? Because Lay's mother, she doesn't show as much emotion as Lay here, right? And what do you think? Do you think that Lay's mother didn't make a good choice when she was marrying Dad, or do you think that it was the perfect choice? Why or why not? And at times, do you make choices too quick? What do you think the problem was with Lay's mother and Lay's dad's marriage here? And do you think that choosing too quickly is a good thing? Because if you choose too slowly, it's time consuming. Or do you think it's a bad thing? Because then you might because then you might make the wrong decision, right? And so now, if you had been mom, and so she began to cry. So now I see that she does have some emotional reactions, right? What do you think that is brewing in her heart here, okay? And I'm going to talk a lot about the heart in this. But, how do you think that mom felt? Like, how do you think that her heart was responding? Do you think there was like a storm in her heart, or like her heart was broken? Or do you think that her heart was mad? How do you think that the heart felt here? And do you think that Lay's mom actually still loves dad or not here? And then they went out, right? And they got some chicken, fried chicken. Oh, I do want to eat some chicken. Oh, I just really like chicken. I wish I had some chicken here. And then they all went to the beach. They just ate, right? And what do you think that this moment sort of symbolized? And how do you think that the night sort of helped Lay deal with everything here? Do you think that if you had been Lay, you would have also been calmed by this? Or would you still have not been 100% calmed down? Okay. Now, so finally, okay, so now Tuesday, February 6th. The thing is, there is still the lunch bag thief, right? Do you think that Lay's actually going to stop the lunch bag thief or not? And also, now I also wanted to ask you, do you think that Lay walked to this butterfly place, right? And if you had been Lay, when you saw all those butterflies, how would you have felt? And I want you to use a simile. And what do you think that all those butterflies sort of symbolized here for Lay? Maybe some hope or, happiness in this dark world, right? Maybe that, some happiness, some hope. And do you think that, do you think that Lay's actually going to make an alarm or not here? And what do you think about the 10-foot wax man? Just from the sound of it, do you think that's going to be a good book or a bad book? Okay. And now Lay's actually thinking of breaking up a burglar alarm. Do you think that you could make a burglar alarm or not? I couldn't. But anyway, so now next time, so Lay got a letter and his dad had postmarked it from Albuquerque, New Mexico, which I know about, but I've never been there. And then on a napkin there it says this: "Sorry about Bandit, here's $20. Go buy yourself an ice cream and there's $20. Do you think that this was like a kind gesture, or do you think that, or not? And do you think that if you had been Lay, would you have been mad about it or would you have been happy about it? And also, why do you think that Lay was so mad about? Why do you think that Lay was so mad about his father apologizing and giving him a $20 bill here? Or do you think that he was really apologizing? What do you think about all this? And why do you think that Lay's so mad? Maybe it's just maybe Lay thinks that maybe his dad just gives money to say sorry, and it's on like a napkin and nothing special, just a napkin. And also, like, maybe his dad isn't telling the truth, or just, it doesn't really seem like it came from the heart maybe, and it's just giving money to make them happy. Okay. So now Lay's actually going to write to Mr. Henshaw, and anyway, what do you think about the sort of like the end of the 10-foot waxman thing? Do you think from now on it's a good idea or a bad idea? And what do you think will be one good ending that you could suggest to Lay? I think that maybe one thing was maybe, finally, like a man comes and helps the 10-foot wax man, and in the end, the 10-foot wax man has this stuff in its wax that maybe makes it so that it won't melt, and then the 10-foot wax man also in the end becomes a millionaire trucker, you know, something like that. That would be fun, you know. Okay, and so now, so also I wanted to also ask you, do you think that Lei should write like a poem or a description here? Or do you think that he should still think about the story here? What do you think is better? Poem, description, or story here? I really like poems, so I think like either poem or story. Yeah, both are awesome. Okay, now we're going to the Diary of Lei Boss Volume 2. And yeah, so I was pretty impressed that he you know, got to a second volume here. And then, so, do you think that, you know, Lei building the alarm, did you actually think that it was going to work or not here? And also, when the alarm actually worked, were you like, wow, I didn't know that Lei was capable, or like, oh, I knew that Lei was capable. What did you think about this? Or did you do you think that you will also install like a alarm in your lunch bag, or do you think it's too complicated? I mean, basically, why or why not? Well, I think that it would be a good idea, but nobody steals my lunch here, and you know, it would be a little too loud. And besides, right now, I'm doing online school, online learning. It's called Immersive EDU, so I don't really have to worry about this. And in person, you know, like, you know, just in person, nobody really steals my lunch, but it would still be pretty cool. And did you actually understand what Lei was doing, or did you just read it and like scratch your head and would be like, what? But you still understood that he made the alarm. I was like that. I was like, what was Lei doing here? I'm like, it's so complicated. But in the end, I was like, oh, so he made this really complicated alarm that at least works. That's the important part here, right? So yeah. And now, do you think that Lei was actually capable of this? And also, do you think that the thief is actually going to did you actually think that the thief was going to get caught? Or do you think that the thief just miraculously was going to disable the alarm? Well, I'm not very sure if that's possible. Or just not steal the lunch. Okay. Here's the thing. You know, there was no thief, right? Were you surprised, you know, and the alarm hadn't even gone off? Were you surprised about this, or were you like, or were you just happy that nobody really did this to Lei? And you know, about when the alarm went off, do you think that your school would have been angry at you, or do you think that your school would have been impressed at you? And how would your friends or family have reacted to this? And also, did you actually think that because of this that Lei was going to make some new friends, or do you think that it was going to be the same for Lei? But anyway, now there's Barry as a friend, right? And so I also wanted to ask you, do you think that Lei's dad is going to marry the pizza boy and is going to marry the mother of the pizza boy here? You know, the one that was talking about when they were going out for pizza and Lei overheard? Or do you think that his dad still isn't just going to accept it? What do you think about Barry's house? Do you think it's a good house, or do you think it's messy and noisy and not a very good house at all? Okay, and do you think that all those burglar alarms, do you think that it's a little annoying and stressful to hear them, or do you think it's cool? And you know about the fad and how it didn't last long. Do you think that you will call burglar alarms a fad, or do you think that you would just call it an amazing idea? What would you call it here? And so, if you had been late, would you have been glad that the burglar had stopped, you know, trying to steal his lunch, or would you have been angry that he hadn't even found out about the burglar? And we can always think about this in different points, right? Of perspective. So it's your choice on what to think, okay? Okay. Now, finally, so there was this phone call here, right? And Lay paused when his dad said, "Do you ever miss your old dad?" If you had been late, would you have said, "Yes, I miss you," or would you be like, "Not really," or would you just lie and said yes? How would you do it? And also, why do you think that Lay's mother did not want to talk to Lay's dad? And what are some reasons here? Okay. Now, I also wanted to ask you, how do you think that maybe the butterfly sort of helped Lay process everything and, feel okay? Okay, but anyway, finally, Lay wrote about the time when his father and he, went down Highway 152 with a load of grapes. Do you think that's gonna win any awards, or that it's gonna really get the judges' attention or not here? Okay, and do you think that, and who do you think that the mystery author is going to be? But of course, there's maybe some authors here are fake, so we aren't very sure. And how do you think, if you had been Barry, would you have liked Lay's house, or would you be like, this crummy house and my friend lives here? Oh my God, maybe I shouldn't be friends with him. What would you think here? Okay, and anyway, so do you think that mom and dad are going to ever get married again or not? Why not? Okay, so now, we see that one of the girls had actually copied, so now Lay gets to go. So if you had been late, would you have been happy, or would you be nervous? What do you think? And also, what about Mrs. Badger, right? What Mrs. Badger said about how everything was so different, about how writing should be different, and about sort of like me. Do you think that what she said made sense, or was it complicated? And do you agree with Mrs. Badger, or do you think that first you should model it after other authors or poets or whatever you're doing? And now, so Lay actually asked if Mrs. Badger if he ever saw Boyd Henshaw, and so and she said, yeah, why yes. And so she said this: I once met him at a meeting of librarians where we were on the same program. And she also said, he's a very nice young man with a wicked twinkle in his eye. So with this, what is a few traits that you can just deduce from this, and also from what he has written and what Lay has been talking to him? What do you think what are 3 traits that Mr. Henshaw has? And also, what about Lay? I totally forgot about that. What are 5 traits that Lay has, 5 traits, and also 5 traits that Lay's dad has? And what about just 3 traits for what Lay's mom has, okay? And now, so now, dear Mr. Henshaw, okay? So now this is a letter to Mr. Henshaw, right? And do you think that next year Lay is going to actually win or go into 2nd place, or do you think that Lay will still have honorable mention or 3rd place here? Okay. Now, from the diary of Lay Boss, okay? So now, it was on Saturday, March 31st, okay. I wish it was March here, but it's only January. Even the January is a pretty good time, And then we see that it was, and anyway, so Lay sees his dad's truck. If you had been Lay, would you be excited, or would you be scared, or would you be mad? How would you feel? And I want you to also use a simile or a metaphor. I'm gonna use a simile. It'll be like this. I felt I think that Lay was excited, so I'd be like, I felt like I had suddenly just gone on to roll. I had suddenly just been lifted into the air, because sort of excited and happy maybe. even though I think that I was just about to say I felt like I was going on a roller coaster, but then again, I feel terrified of roller coasters. I do not like them. Okay. Now, also, do you think that, between Lei and his father, do you think it's a little too uncomfortable and awkward? Or do you think it's going to be awesome and it's not uncomfortable at all and it's awesome and it's going to be great here? And do you think that Lei's father actually saw lots of shoes or not? And finally, Mom came. If you had been Mom, would you be like, you? And would you have hugged Lei's dad, or would you be like what Mom acted like? Not mad, but a little cool, And then Dad asked if Mom would marry him again, and Mom refused. If you had been Lei, would you have liked this, or would you be like mad that his mom refused? And also, another thing I wanted to ask you was, if you had been Lei's mom, why wouldn't you have married Lei's dad? And finally, and they say, bye Dad, right? And then and then Lei says that his dad needs, Bandit. Do you think that it's a fair trade? And do you think that Bandit is going to be a burden to Dad, or do you think that's going to be a great pal to Dad here? And anyway, do you think that Lei's dad is not a bad dad all in all, or do you think that he's still pretty bad dad, but he's not as bad as he thought, or do you think he's still more terrible than before, or do you think he's just a bad dad, or do you think he's a great dad here? And in the end, it said that the last sentence in the book was this: I felt sad and a whole lot better at the same time. Can you feel sad and better at the same time? And have you ever had that? Okay, and also, how do you like the end of the story? How did you like it? Do you think it was a sad ending, or do you think it was a happy ending? I think that it was a happy ending, and I think that a lot of good things are going to happen to Lei. Yes, I was like, woohoo, Lei! Okay? But anyway, we finished Dear Mr. Henshaw. So this was a long book, a long session, but I hope that you really, really, really enjoyed it. And so, yeah, have a great rest of your day. Quick last questions. What's your favorite character in the book? Mine was Lei. Least favorite character? I guess the lunchbag thief, even though we don't really know him, but the lunchbag thief makes Lei's life much harder, okay? Or maybe it would be Lei's dad. No, the lunchbag thief. Or maybe the pizza boy. But he doesn't come out too much, so no. Maybe so, I'm not very sure, but like either the thief or dad, but not really dad, I guess, or the pizza boy, either one. And so what was your favorite part in the book? Well, I can't really choose here, but maybe when Lei and his mother got some chicken and went to the beach, or maybe when when Lei discovered the butterflies, or about the burglar alarm, or when Lei met Mrs. Badger. I don't know. There's so many. So that's why mostly I split the book into parts. But this time we just did the whole book. So yeah. Okay. Also, how did you like the book? Another thing. How did you like the book? And you can use a simile or a metaphor or 3 or 5 traits the book has, or you can just say amazing. Well, I loved it, and you can just make yeah, I just hope that you really enjoyed this book, okay? Amazing book, Newbery Medal winner, and just, yeah, I love the book. Hope that you also love the book, okay? And, okay, last question. What do you predict is going to happen to Lei? And you might be like, well, I don't know, but maybe you could think like scenarios that might happen to Lei, okay? Or maybe like what Lei, or you could ask yourself questions about Lei, or I'll ask you some, okay? Do you think that, what do you think that Lei will be when he grows up? Do you think that Leigh is going to get more friends? What fun things do you think that other things that do you think that Leigh will do in the next year? Well, okay, those are some 3 questions, but there can be a lot more, and you could just dream up of scenarios. Okay, guys, but anyway, hope that you had an amazing time with me, and have a great rest of your day or night, because I always want to be fair tonight. And so, also, just keep reading, because it's awesome. There's this book and millions of other books to choose from. I hope that you enjoyed Dear Mr. Henshaw, and have a great rest of your day or night. Keep reading because it's awesome.